Good evening and welcome to the first Monday night panel of 2024. I wish you all a happy new year. I'm standing in for Chris tonight, who is unwell, and we do wish her a speedy recovery, and I'm sure she'll be back with us next Monday. We've got an erudite guest of panellists that will join us very shortly, along with Vic. But before, I'd just like to say a couple of things. Fans Forum, as you well know, on the 30th of January, it is now fully booked. What we have done, though, is we've contacted members to say that if anyone can't make it, please let us know. And then any reserve people we will get in touch with and try and fill it that way. And the other thing from me is as well, you probably saw in the news this morning about the Derby Rimmer Foundation and Stephen Darby and Marcus Stewart on BBC Breakfast. As you probably know, it's the official supporters club chosen charity of the year. Pleased to say that we've raised in the sum of just under £9,000 for them at the moment, season to date. And we continue to do so with various events going forward. And one of the things we do every match day is we run a programme stall in the Legends Lounge. So if you're in the Legends Lounge, please feel free to pop over, grab a few programmes, chuck a few pennies in the box, and it's all going to an extremely good cause. Okay, without further ado, let's bring Vic on, who's himself is a bit crook, aren't you? Good evening, Vic. Hope you're feeling a little better now.
Well, I'm struggling on, but we'll get there. Yeah, don't forget the badges, of course, the Derby Rimmer badges.
Oh, yes, of course, yes.
Are available on the OSC website. So if you want to go there, they cost £4, but are immensely popular. And you can get those also in the Legends, of course, before each home game too. So lots of people have bought them already. So if you want to get one of those, then please do so. We'd love to have your money, basically, so we can forward it onto the Derby Rimmer Foundation. SAS, Crew away on Saturday, of course. The buses leave the county ground at 10 o'clock on Saturday. But there are spaces to go to Crew available. And if you'd like to get in touch with SAS tomorrow at 7 o'clock, phone bookings, you may be able to get a space on the bus to Crew. And the STFC Academy, who are playing Manchester United next Tuesday night at the county ground, they've got a home game tomorrow at 2 o'clock against Plymouth Argyle, and that's at the Corinium Stadium in Cirencester, the home of Cirencester Town, of course. Swindon Town Academy against Plymouth Argyle at 2 o'clock tomorrow afternoon at the Corinium Stadium. And then at the Royal Agricultural University next Saturday, 11, they're at home to Forest Green Rovers. We'll feature them much more next week here on the Monday night panel.
Fantastic. Without further ado, let's bring our guests on this evening. Good evening, James. Good evening, Liam. Good evening, Andrew. And good evening, Anna. And I'll leave you to it. See you later.
Andy, thank you very much indeed. So lots to get through in the next hour or so. Mr. Horse, thank you very much indeed for joining us at this hour. Anna, thank you very much indeed for joining us. James, thank you very much indeed for joining us, and Liam as well. Thank you very much indeed. Now, I wanted to deal with the phrase happy clappers, because I'm one of these people, it annoys the heck out of me to read that. Because if anybody's a happy clapper at the moment, I'd be amazed. You're entitled to do whatever you want when you go to a football match. And if you want to clap the side off, great. If you don't, great. But, you know, to peg people with the term happy clappers is, it seems nonsensical at the moment, because I don't think anybody's particularly happy at the moment. Anna, are they?
Well, we were doing a rating, weren't we, before we went live this evening, and I gave myself a 2 out of 10 for happiness, and that's not in my general life. That's as regards Swindon Town. So, nobody's happy with what's going on the pitch, but not all of us want to stand and shout abuse at players at the end of a game, and I don't. I don't want to boo either. I mean, I kind of want to boo, but I'm not going to, because I don't personally think it's the right thing to do. But happy clappers. What does that even mean, really? It means that people think you're not militant enough or something. So, that was a bit of an interlude. Let's just, we all support the club in whatever way we can, but I was recalling a game back in that 85-86 season. Well, perhaps it was the season before that with Macari, when Macari first came in, where it was either 0-0 or we were 1-0 down at half time, and the team was applauded off, loudly and vociferously applauded off at the end of the first half, even though we were not winning. Well, you see what happened Saturday, and Saturday was obviously a disastrous last minute. But that was the difference between a small vocal minority booing the side off at 2-2 and being applauded off. So that there are fine margins here, and to my mind, you want to try and support your side. That doesn't make me a happy clapper because I'm not happy.
No. James, are you happy? I'm grumpy. I've been grumpy, well, most of the weekend, to be honest. Not just because of the cold, but I've been grumpy. How about you?
Yeah, grumpy is a very good word, or as people close to me call me, Victor Meldrew, because literally coming home from the county ground or an away game on Saturdays at the moment, I am, generally grumpy as anything. Not interested in talking to anyone, particularly for a few hours after the game. I literally, and Saturday, I just couldn't believe, the equaliser, and literally was, I didn't think I spoke to anyone for about 3 hours after the game. It was just horrible. It's not good, is it? It's not good at the moment. I'm probably normally a three kind of quarters of a glass half full type of person, and I think I'd probably be a 3 out of 10, so maybe slightly more than Anna, but certainly that's probably one of the lowest scores I've ever been supporting this club, really. So
yeah, Liam.
Well, I've been coming 53 years, and I've been a season ticket holder for 29, and this is the first time in those 29 years I'm seriously considering about renewal. And the irony is that I could afford to buy a ticket now when I couldn't 29 years ago. I got a fairly good job with Wiltshire Health Authority back in the 90s, and one of the persuasive factors I was asked is, how do I manage my stress? How do I keep going through the ups and downs of life? And I answered by saying I'm a Swindon Town supporter, and the Southampton supporter who was on the selection panel gave me the job. He was from Salisbury, so that was already wrong in so many ways that a Wiltshire boy was supporting Southampton. It's not great, is it?
No.
And I stopped having my mood affected by Swindon Town, but I'm with you, James. I'm with you, Anna, on how depressing this is, particularly compared to August and September. It all went, going to say something up back in October, didn't it? From Notts County onwards. Up until then, it was like, this could happen. This could be good. And I'm just really, really sad with what our legendary club, the club that I love, is going at the moment. And actually, no, I'm not a happy clapper. I never have been. I'm quite a pragmatist clapper. What I don't like is people taking sides. We should be all in this together. We should all be comrades, really, fighting the good fight to get this club lifted. And whether that means a change of senior management, whether that's a change of management, whether that's a change of players. But the club is always bigger than all of those people.
Yeah, we all support the badge, don't we? And whatever happens, you support that badge. I mean, I just the divide in the fan base at the minute is pretty awful and pretty toxic, and it's not something I particularly enjoy. This is from Andy on that subject, actually. Hi all, what has happened? We've gone from free attacking football at the start of the year and now hanging on at home against Forest Green Rovers and Colchester, hardly having a shot on target. That's from Andy. Thanks very much indeed for that, Andy. I mean, Andrew, you have to commentate on the blessed things at the minute. I mean, the second half was basically one-way traffic, wasn't it? And having watched the Colchester game, the Colchester equaliser, I mean, basically it was a back heel, and then it touched somebody on the shin and it went in, didn't it? I mean, it was a bit of a fluke, but hey, they kind of deserved it on their second half performance.
I don't think there's any argument about that. What was the trusty XG for Swindon? It was something like, it was either 0 or something like 0.12, depending on whichever site you want to believe. But no, Colchester just kind of kept sort of plugging away in their willing but vaguely limited way. It looked like Swindon had figured out how to defend John Akindi after Tom Brewitt had bounced off him a few times. Just let him win the header and deal with all that. But the kind of bit right at the end summarised it, isn't it? The way the corner's given away, the way the corner's not defended, the way the corner goes in. It was just, the performance just kind of sort of tailed off for it. I don't think it was consciously done, but it almost from minute 46 onwards, it was just like, it seemed like no more than can we hold on, which certainly wasn't the aim, but that's absolutely how the game played out.
I mean, even when you go into injury time, Andrew, I don't know about whether you feel this, but there seems to be an air of inevitability that we will concede.
Yeah, no, I was sort of. The only thing I was thinking was, for all that effort Colchester had put in, there weren't too many kind of clear-cut, obvious chances for them you recall. I think that was the only thing that get you through. But there was certainly that kind of collective intake of breath. I think when the corner was conceded at the end, you did kind of fear something could happen. Try and be rational about it. Like you say, I think coaches haven't created much, but it's not very rational team or thing to do, is it? Sometimes to follow your football side.
Yeah, and we should say today, of course, we've sadly lost Franz Beckenbauer at the age of 78. Very sad loss to the world of football. Great German footballer, of course. He and Bobby Charlton cancelled each other out in that 1966 World Cup final. And that comes off the back of Mario Zagallo, who won the World Cup 4 times with Brazil as manager and player. And there are 3 who've won it as a manager and a player. I'll leave you to ponder as to who the third one will be. And you probably know anyway. But I just, leave that one open and let you know. I'd also like to read you this email, which we've had sent into the Supporters Club, if I can get through to the end of it. Do you think we will do any much needed business in the January market? We've obviously lost Kemp and Young, in total 32 goals. We've sold Wakeling. We obviously need to strengthen the squad. I've supported this club for 54 years now, and I can honestly say we've had some testing times, but this is probably the most testing. We were promised so much by Clem, and whilst I understand running a football club is very hard, the transparency seems to have missed it over. If transfers are not added, this club is hurtling towards the National League. We as supporters really need something to support. Unfortunately for us, we're the only constant in a club. Managers and owners come and go. I really believe if nothing is done this January, then Football League status is gone for the first time in my life. Please sort this mess out. And I was looking at our worst ever positions. And in recent times, in 1983-84, it was 17th in Division 4. In 35-36, 19th in Division 3 South. And in 32-33, 22nd in Division 3 South. So I guess you could count that as our worst ever position. But in modern times, 17th in Division 4, Ella. And we're kind of just hovering above that, aren't we, at the minute?
Oh, dire, Vic. Honestly, those stats. I was also looking at I was looking at some win percentages of our most recent managers as well. I was looking at Sheridan, Morris, and Flynn. And Flynn's win percentage at 28% is rapidly heading downwards towards that of Jody Morris, which was at 22. So it's not. There's so many things wrong. I mean, all the elements that email referred to there are wrong at the club. The transparency is wrong, the structure at the club, the lack of investment historically, not just with the current regime, but other debts that they've had to clear up and where that's taking us. But like Liam, I've never felt kind of so devoid of hope for the future, to be honest. And that's what kills us in a way. That this season you can say, okay, mid-table finish, well, we can accept that. But it's looking forward to next season, or not looking forward, looking at next season and thinking it's going to be the same old stuff unless something very different happens. You can't have a squad, and I know Michael Flynn answered some questions from you, Andrew, on Saturday about what the problem was with signing players. I think it goes beyond just budget. I think it's about who wants to come to Swindon Town, who wants to come to the area, who wants to play for this club. And that's not just about the players, is it? I mean, if you look at the staff turnover behind the scenes, I think that says something as well about what it is like to work for this club. And that's again not just referring to the current regime; it's referring to power as well. But even if we weren't to head downwards into the National League this season, if the setup is the same next season, it's a risk next season. And who wants to come and support that? I mean, me, not as a happy clapper, but someone who's going to be around whatever happens, I would be around. But I can see why other people don't want to do it, because it's demoralizing and depressing, even if you can kind of tune it out. So there's so much to fix at this club. There's so much to fix. And what we really need is some acknowledgement from Clem that there is stuff to fix. Whatever the answers are, if he doesn't have them, that's fine. But, he needs to acknowledge that he's not open and honest enough when he promised he would be. That the trust has been lost. So the trust in him and his regime has been lost as a result of the debentures, fiasco and that not sale, whatever. You can't even begin to start on this session. We've got what, 45 minutes left. Where do you go, really? So much wrong.
Sure. Well, this is from Anthony. I'm not one of the Clem out brigade, but I do feel it's odd that we've not heard from him since he came back at the end of December. Yes, he'll be at the fans forum at the end of January, but that'll be 6 weeks without communications to the fans when he's right on our doorstep. What's the panel's view, please? James, I'll ask you, because obviously the trust, we'll get to the trust in a minute, but obviously the trusts are involved with the ownership. What is your take on that? And I'll ask Andrew as well in a minute, because obviously I'm sure BBC Welsh have been trying to get an interview with him. But what is your take on that?
Yeah, it's a difficult one. I'll be honest. We, with our trust hat on, we've been trying to encourage Clem to, since he's been back in the country, kind of just before Christmas, to speak. Whether that be on this or BBC Wiltshire or even just a website article on the official site, to actually kind of say, you know, what his aims are, what his strategy is. You know, he said he's come back over to kind of oversee the January window. Well, you know, what are we aiming to try and achieve ultimately? You know, that hasn't happened. So we, you know, and that's come from multiple people that have suggested to him that would be a really positive thing to do in order to just to kind of let fans know that, you know, what his intentions are and his plans, and to try and kind of move that forward. That hasn't happened though. That's not to say that it won't happen. Obviously, yes, we've got the fans forum in a few weeks, but I think it needs something in between. I don't think we can wait that long.
There'll be no what's your favourite cheese questions at that fans forum, I can assure you. So if anybody thinks there's going to be, they're sadly wrong. Liam, what's your take on that? I've got another one here. It says, Neil says, Happy New Year all. What the heck is happening at the town? Or more like it, what is not happening? We're told player signing today, again, and not a word again. I mean, what's your take on it all?
Well, we've got social media coming out everywhere these days, and we're all in our businesses and our work pushing for that, aren't we? About getting the message out, getting the cues. We had the chief exec who didn't endear himself to people. The comments that were made, and some are quoted out of context, but it hasn't been very smart since then. Where is the olive branch? Where is the discussions to say we didn't quite get that message right? Why do we have to hear rumours that the next year's season tickets will be the same price or they'll be higher? Where are we about the business about the 9 free tickets? Where are we in relation to stuff like next year's prices and, you know, walk up to a 27 quid a game? We need that sort of comms, as well as where is the chairman at the moment? Where is the CEO? Where is it in some sort of communications limbo? And that is not good. That is not good. And what happens when we don't know anything? There's just conjecture and arguments and gossip and rumours. We're not really finding out what's happening, and that's really sad. Look, we've got to be realistic, haven't we? 2-3 years ago, we were signing Premiership players on loan. Now we're signing Division 3 players. Oh, sorry, League 2 players on loan. But when it comes to it, you know, we're not the attraction we used to be. The last thing I want us to be is a Milton Keynes feeder club. I'd like us to, you know, if the issue is about getting players from Bristol City, or maybe from Swansea, or maybe from Cardiff City, those youngsters, those development players could still stay at home and come back and play with us during the week or what have you, and train with us during the week and play at weekends. But we're not getting that, are we? So something is seriously wrong. I'm sorry to sound so dramatic, Vic, but something is seriously wrong. And for me, the biggest issue is the lack of comms.
That's what you're on here for, your opinion. And actually, you've been praised for your previous comment from Lee. He says, I think you summed it up well, Liam, when we were talking about happy clappers, etc., etc. Andrew, I'm guessing you have tried to get an interview with Clem. I can't believe you haven't. What situation?
There's essentially a kind of sort of standing invitation for him, really, to come on. So, you know, he can accept that or decide not to at his leisure. Ultimately,
yes, of course, it's up to him whether he does or he doesn't. But yes, we've clearly we've asked. Yeah, I mean, what's your view of it? Because obviously you're a fan as well as a broadcaster, and you deal with the club day to day. What is your view on the whole situation in terms of the radio silence, if I might use that phrase?
Let's say I guess I try to analyze it with two hats. I'm kind of, I know what Liam says there about wanting communication, but I do also think there's a percentage of the fan base now that, or maybe maybe I spend too much time in a social media echo chamber, that if Clem does come out and say something, if it's positive, people won't believe him. If it's negative, it'll get leapt on. So I do almost wonder what the sort of net benefit of doing interviews is for him. And he's not a natural interviewer, if you like. I don't think it's not something he's particularly comfortable doing. Rob Angus was so very capable in front of a microphone as his chief executive, so that was always good. You could kind of speak to Rob and get Rob on, and you get an understanding of what was going on. Obviously, Anthony Hall's spoken to you, Vic, and we know how that's been received. So, do you push him in front of a microphone instead? You probably don't at this stage. But Liam is also right in that if they don't say anything, my God, people are willing to put something in its place, regardless of how true it is or not. And one of our jobs is trying to sort of sift through that and figure out what's true and what isn't. So there's all that, and I don't know, with my fans hat on, yeah, it's quite difficult to see how we do escape from the spiral we're in of sort of apathy, stroke anger, therefore less ticket sales, therefore less money, etc., etc., etc. And there's that, and it's very difficult to see how the ownership restores trust at the moment. And just because there aren't enough really professional, fully fit humans that Swindon are capable of employing at the moment to put out a team of 11 fit players, it doesn't suggest the football's going to bail them out anytime soon either. So you look at that kind of combined picture, and that it absolutely feels like there's a downward drag on. It's sorry, I'm going off a bit. It's like, is Mike Flynn a good manager? Is Mike Flynn a bad manager? I'm not sure I can tell you, because until you give someone actually 17 or 18 fit players to choose from and a bit of competition, then who knows? He might be a genius with subs, but we can't tell.
Have you any intelligence as to whether there might be signings this week? I mean, I know they said the usual. There'll be 3 or 4.
Yeah, no. I mean, nothing further than what was sort of said on Saturday. So, and again, unfortunately, the past has been numbers have been floated, and then they've not arrived. So everyone's a bit cynical. Everyone's a bit cynical about that. I'm a bundle of cheerfulness tonight.
I think we all are. This is from Mitchell. Saturday, I really didn't want to go. Hi, Mitch, for the first time in a long time. My nephew and brother, who had season tickets, I couldn't convince to even come. By the end of the game, I honestly felt like I might have fallen out of love with my club. So I'll be considering mine. My son's and my nephew's season ticket, which I never ever thought would be the case. I assumed I would be there until I die. And that, Anna, is quite worrying, isn't it? And I mean, I know there are those of us who'll be bonkers enough to go anyway, because it's what we do. But it is kind of worrying. The more people that you read are saying they're not going to renew. I know a lot of those who say they will, because that's the nature of the beast. But there will be a big percentage, I'm guessing, who won't.
Yeah, I mean, everyone has their tipping point, don't they? And you look at the attendance from Saturday, which I think was 7.4 or 7.9, something like that. So the attendance is already on the downstroke, and if nothing else, Clem can look at that and say, well, that's going to hit the pocket, isn't it? That's going to hit the finance of the club in terms of transfer. But you can see the discontent, and this is why, again, going back to his non-visibility, if you like, that he's just as invisible as he was when he's in Australia. So, and I don't understand that. I understand that he's perhaps an introvert, but then you've got to surround yourself with people who can do the job you can't do. If Anthony Hall can't do it and be the voice of the club and say sensible things in a good way and honest things, then get someone in who can. It's not hard. They say talk is cheap, right? And I know that's referring to spying and all that kind of stuff, but it doesn't good communication doesn't cost a lot. To put stuff out on social media, to have yourself ready to say things, to produce that honesty and transparency, and people, and it's not happening, and people are walking away. People are already walking away. I've heard people say, yeah, I'm not going to renew next season. If there's a hike in season ticket prices, by any percentage, I think there's going to be a whole chunk of people who won't renew. I don't look forward to going to games, the evening games, which I've always looked forward to. I think, oh, flip it out, there's a town game. How bad is that? And that's because right through from top to bottom of the club, everything seems bad. So you can't blame people for wanting to stay away, but it's that spiral that somehow we've got to stop, and it comes from Clem. And if he doesn't acknowledge that, then he needs to think about what he's doing with the club. He needs to be open and honest about what he's going to do with the club. You can't sit here like this forever, because people will just pass us by. The new Brentfords and Bournemouths of this world will go up and past us, and in 20 years' time, we'll still be sat here or worse.
Yeah, I must admit, if there was a game tomorrow night, I'd be thinking, not very well. Why should I? It's that situation really, which is crazy. Hi to Sean. It's not great on the pitch, of course it is, but some fans do my head in. I said to one the other day on social media, well, go and watch someone else then, but chose wisely, because if it goes there, then you'll have to choose again. If it goes wrong there, you'll have to choose again. You support a club through thick and thin. Yes, we're not happy with what is not happening at the background, but it's the team that we support. Hi, Dave the Chair. Silly question, I know, but is Clem going to make an appearance on here before he goes home? The honest answer is I don't know, but there is the fans forum on the 30th of January. That's all I can tell you. Let's have a look. Sean Sid Feely. Hi, Sean. We brought it on ourselves by defending too deep with no outlet whatsoever. I think we all felt that on Saturday. And here's a point, James, that I watched this player when he was at Exeter, and I always admired him, and I would love Swindon to have signed him in the past. Matt Jay. Yeah. Glenn says, couldn't understand how the smallest bloke on the pitch kept winning headers. And he did kind of run the game. I'm a great admirer of Matt Jay, and that's the first thing I said. He's the smallest bloke on the pitch, and yet he got the goal. What was your view of it?
No, 100%. And it was a great header as well. But yeah, you're right. He's the smallest guy on the pitch. I've been aware of Matt Jay. I hadn't really seen a lot of him other than maybe watching on telly. But yeah, he ran the show. He was absolutely brilliant. And how can you not mark? How can you let someone that looks half the height of the rest of the players? I know it's a bit of an exaggeration, but it's not far off. How can you let him get a headed goal like that? It's just, absolutely crazy. I mean, he was completely unmarked. And it's just beggars belief. And that's happened far too many times this season, It's just crazy. And yeah, I mean, if we could have someone like that could kind of run the show for us, I think, we'd be in a significantly better position. But I think, yeah, brilliant player, really, really, really great player.
He took him off, didn't he, quite early? And I was hoping that he'd be straight down the tunnel signing a contract at Swindon, but it didn't happen, obviously. Hi to James, 57 years a Town fan. I've had enough, not going anymore this season. I've seen some bad times in these years. This is without doubt the worst squad I've ever seen. Well, as we've said before, they're in danger of our worst ever finish. Hi, Martin, 69 goals conceded in 32 collective games this season. That's the worst stat. Defensive shambles. Hi, Alistair. Good evening, Vic. We're in a very sad state at present. I'm a season ticket holder, and when you see this again, it does not give you heart to keep going. Yet we do. But when will Clem come out and tell us? I believe we are only going one way. Sorry to say. Right. There's questions about the trust, which we'll get to in a minute. All the problems start with Clem. Why did Rob leave? He must have known something and did not like it, says Kevin. We played Man City 2 years ago. We should have kicked on from then, but it's gone completely in the opposite direction. Fans deserve better. That's from Brad. Steve, 3 years ago, we were promised so much. Thousands bought into it, including fan groups and the trust. TSBL gone. Trust struggling to recruit. It's toxic on and off the pitch. Fans deserve so much more. Honesty is a start. Open and transparently. And that is a phrase. It's like faster talking football, isn't it? Once you say that, you kind of put that in people's heads. And if you don't, then that's when you run into trouble, isn't it?
Well, we were promised it, weren't we? And it was the great hope. And yes, I'm a trust member, but I'm not like James and the brilliant committee that have done all that hard work over the years. You know, we did an awful lot as supporters to look at the sustainability of the club and where we're going from there. And we're trying to open. We're here tonight as fans. We're getting criticised by our fellow fans, but we're here and we're on this, and all we want is the same from our leadership. That's all we want. It's very simple stuff, really. And we were promised that January that Clem would be coming over. Anthony Hall said that himself in the interview with you, Vic, and that things would be easier and things would be clarified this month. And we're what? 3 weeks in now since he was arrived, and we're still not hearing anything, and that really saddens me. My big question I was trying to work out, and I can't get my head around, is what have we got? 5,300 season ticket holders, 5-4,
5-3.
So,
Yeah.
and I presume all of us who didn't come on Saturday were still counted in, which means that really, how many were actually casual support or not casual? You know that. I don't mean that. Forgive me.
Yeah.
You know, but how many people are non-season ticket holders in those numbers? And I reckon 1,500 maybe. That's so. In fact, what was really the crowd on Saturday? 5,000.
Well,
6,000 people there spending money.
If you think we've got the likes of Harrogate and Barrow still to come, who normally bring a low attendance anyway, so you know the crowds ain't going to go up unless we do something remarkable. It's that simple.
So you know, let's be open and transparent, and let's have some attacking football as well.
Yeah, have a go. One player you can never sort of question, of course, is Tom Brewer. He got his first goal for the town on Saturday. Always a wholehearted display, so well done to him. I just thought I'd have a look at the top and the bottom of the table. The top, just, you know, to try and cheer myself up. Why not? In fifth place of the team that were playing on Saturday, Crew Alexandra, played 26. They got 44 points and a 9 goal difference, +9. In seventh place, the final playoff place, AFC Wimbledon, 25 games played, 39 points and a +13 goal difference. Now, if you remember back in the halcyon days of earlier in the season, we had games in hand and a goal difference of around about 22 plus. Well, right now it's played 27, points 34, goal difference -3. Now that says a lot. And of course, that means that the teams above us have got games in hand. And then if you look at the bottom, Colchester, of course, third bottom, who we played on Saturday. Forest Green, 23rd, 25 games played, 18 points, -20 goal difference. And then Sutton United in 24th, played 25, 18 points, 24 minus goal difference. Andrew, what are you looking, up or down?
I think at the moment my first instinct is to look more towards what Salford and Colchester are doing. To be perfectly honest, given the way we're played and the run of form, I think that the chances of being caught if you try and sort of step away from the current fear and look at it logically are pretty slim. Well, let's just look at it. Sutton have got 18 points from 25 games, and we've got nearly double that, and we've had more than half the season, if you follow my maths.
Yeah.
So you know, you assume they may get a bit better under a new manager, but you sort of look at those figures and think we've got a massive cushion, and you know the kind of law or football weirdness probably still buys us a few wins somewhere along the way, given the division. You know, the lower half of the division is not that great, but it's almost like if you kind of flung me a table through from the future and said, there you are, you're 16th, you wouldn't be happy about it, but you'd probably exhale, if you know what I mean.
Yes, I do know what you mean. Yes, and it would be our worst ever finish.
Yeah, also the trusty Beamish line would not quite be breached.
A small crumb of comfort in these bleak times.
Yeah, not that I'm saying that's kind of acceptable, but I think that's more kind of indicative of the mood, I think.
Sure. Let's have a look. All we need is the club to speak up. If he's bitten off more than he can chew, then just be honest. Like I've said before, he's a millionaire, not a billionaire, says Sean. Dean says, question for James. We'll get to this in a minute, but I was going to go to Anna first. Where do the trust and fans stand in the scenario that Clem decides to sell up? Can he sell to whoever they wish or due to the joint venture, do the trust have a say? Or am I right in saying the joint relationship is only regarding the stadium and that the trust would be able to intervene on any sale of the club? We'll get to you with that in a minute. And are you looking up or down?
Oh yeah, I'm looking down. I mean, I think when Kokolo signed till the end of the season, didn't he mention promotion or something? But I just wish he'd stop talking about that. Really, I mean, there's no point in any mouthful having that word in there. So we're looking downwards very certainly, and I look at the appointments that Salford and Colchester have made, managerial appointments recently, and think, well, Cowley Brothers, good shout. Robinson, well, nothing seems to succeed with Salford, so who knows what's going to happen there. But you're right, we have a significant cushion, but the cushion that we've given ourselves is mainly from those, those early days of the season when we were unbeaten. We were looking unbeatable at that point, weren't we? But it was always going to come back to bite us, this squad depth, wasn't it? The moment that we started getting some significant injuries as well to players that would have been coming off the bench. And other clubs must be rubbing their hands together when they look at our bench. Now, who are we going to bring on to change the game in those last few minutes? You can't bring on a John Akinde because you don't have one. You don't even have anyone who, like a Jacob Wakeling to bring off the bench, who's lacking in experience maybe, but going to give it his all. You have basically no one to change the game up front, and that's really come back to bite us. We knew it, as we knew it would. So this transfer window is critical to looking forward to next season, I think, assuming that things behind the scenes take a bit of an upturn as well, because I think, as I said before, there's a real structural issue at the club in my view. And I know we're going to come on to the discussion about the trust, but we have to think about where all our tipping points are as fans, and think about how do we try to force, or you can't force people to do things they don't want to do, but how do we make sure that the club is standing up and doing the things it said it would do on the memorandum of understanding that they signed with the trust? We're a bit hands tied. We can't go in and slap them over the head, but nevertheless, let's try and get them to do what they should be doing.
Sure. Couple of points. In spite of it all, says Andrew, the atmosphere in the second half was very supportive, in spite of being under the cosh. And actually, the atmosphere second half was pretty good. Let's be honest, it wasn't bad down in way, shape, or form. And when you've got people like Derek Elston and Rob Hartley questioning, that's a bleak old fare. Graham says, Clem came in when, let's be honest, how can I put this? A certain gentleman from Gloucester would have got a good reception after Lee Power. However, it didn't take him long to show his true colours. When he came on here, we saw the real side of him. We're in a complete mess. Clem, who has no football experience in overseeing the transfer window, that tells you everything you need to know. Ben Chorley is the biggest loss we've had at this club in years. So then, question for James and the Trust. Have you had any communication or conversation with Clem since he's been back, or even before he came back? Is there any information with regards to ground development and the Nigel Eady money that was put in? So let's talk Trust then, James, because I know you're stepping down. What's the reason for you stepping down?
Go straight in with $1 million question now. I've been with the Trust for 6 or 7 years now. I've worked alongside Steve, Myton and Alex. And, the predominant focus for us throughout that whole period has been the stadium, the county ground, and purchasing that. And that's taken 7, 8 years of exceptional hard work. Majority of which has been Steve, Myton, but obviously with Alex and myself kind of contributing quite heavily to that, along with other people as well, shall I say. We have got to a junction now, I think, where the Trust needs to, it's always going to have the joint venture and the 50% of the ground. So taking that to one side, I think it needs almost Trust 4.0 or whichever version that, the new board that actually comes on, excuse the pun, comes on board, actually gets to define the ongoing purpose of the Trust. We've obviously got the official supporters club, which, we know very much what they stand for. But I think at the moment, other than the ground and the redevelopment of the ground, the whole remit of the scope of what the Trust kind of stands for and where it should try as much value to the club and the fans as it should needs rethinking. And I think that needs to be done by a new board. And that's the reason why Steve, myself, and Alex kind of all accelerated our kind of leaving, if you like. It needs new blood. It's like anything. If you've been in a job for 5 or 6 years, it can become a little stale. It can become a little stale, and you need new blood, new thoughts. And it felt like the right time, because we've kind of achieved largely a lot of the things we wanted to achieve on the stadium, with obviously the Lee Power situation and a few other things as well. But it just felt like it was an opportunity now to allow other people to come on board and actually take it and define it and shape it in a direction that, for the future. And, there are a lot of board, we are losing the majority of our board at the end of February. And it's an opportunity for people that are vocal, that have got skills that ultimately are required, to be involved in the trust. And for people really to kind of step up and say, right, I love this football club, of which all of us on the trust do. I know sometimes, we get criticised, but we are fans at the end of the day. That's why we joined the trust, because we love the club. So this gives some other people an opportunity to come on board and actually, help shape the future, and support the club and hold it to account and be that critical friend that we've always said that we need to be as a trust. And it's now that time, I think, and the right time for people to come on board and to do that. And that's why there are, quite a number of positions to be filled, should I say, and why I think this period over the next couple of months is so important to get the right people involved in that board that are passionate about Swindon Town and supporting the club and helping, move it forward. And representing the fans' views, and that's so important. So I would just say that if anyone is umming and ahhing as to whether or not they should stand, please do get in contact with either our secretary Sharon or any of the board members, and we'll be happy to reach out and speak to people and answer any questions we can. Alex has been doing a great job on social media to try and respond to people with questions, but I really encourage people that are thinking about it, reach out and have a conversation with a board member, and hopefully we can try and answer those questions and get people interested.
It's fair to say though, you have to be you have to be a member at a certain date. What date is that?
Yeah, so I think a few people, this kind of surprised a few people. It's not something that's new. It's been in place now for a number of years. It's part of our constitution. As a trust, you ultimately have to be a member of the trust on the 1st of January. So anyone that's a member of the trust on the 1st of January this year can effectively put themselves forward for joining the board.
Finally, if I was to say this to you, is the trust in disarray? What would you say to that?
I wouldn't say disarray. I think it's the new juncture. I think it needs, when you've got 6, 7, 8, 9 roles or whatever it might be that are ultimately up for grabs, that's the majority of the board. That's an opportunity for lots of new people to come on board and actually with some new ideas to form that board and actually take it forward. I think we made lots of mistakes. We've made lots and lots of mistakes, largely around communication. You're trying to get that balance right between over communicating and under communicating. I don't think we've got it right, personally, on a number of occasions, and we've tried to acknowledge that over the last few months with some of the comms we've done. But I think we're putting all our efforts in now to try and find the right people to take the trust forward, that can really do a great job and really springboard it forward and shape it for the future. And like I said, I would encourage people that are interested to reach out.
Okay, James, thank you very much indeed for telling us that, because I think it's still something we need to know what the direction's going to be. This is from Greg. I'm a season ticket holder and been seeing the town for over 45 years. I've now missed 5 home games already this season. I only have to miss 4 more to wipe out my freeloading ticket holder tag. Rob says Clem's silence can only mean that the club is being sold. as he's being told to make no comments at all. Otherwise, why would he not even thank his customers, us, for our support and wish us a happy new year at least? Hello, Dan. Clem needs to come and tell us his intentions for this season at least. Every day that goes by, the unrest will increase. We're at absolute breaking point. This is our club, and we will be here beyond any owner and player. Action is needed now. And it's hard to be positive at the moment, but anything on the redevelopment of the county ground, James? We'll get to that in a minute. We'll sort of finish with that if you like. Right, let's have a look at one or two issues that have come up. Checking of tickets was an issue that was brought up at the weekend, Liam. Now, the club are quite keen that anybody who bought a ticket as a child but uses it to gain access as an adult shouldn't do that. They should pay adult price. I didn't have a problem with getting in. I mean, I've got a season ticket and stuff, but I'm sure people did have problems. What's your take on that? Are the club entitled to check tickets?
Yeah, of course. I mean, the issue is that the turnstiles don't work properly, do they?
No,
It doesn't differentiate. So we need an upgrade to the systems to allow that to happen. I gather that I didn't see it, but I gather there's problems over some of the manner of the people checking the tickets. I gather that there's certainly been some allegations of rudeness from the stewards themselves. There doesn't seem to be a whole systems approach here, does there? Working through again, wouldn't that be good comms? Have you got the correct ticket? Assume that the customer maybe made a mistake. You know, I've done it. I've got my granddaughter's ticket, and I've swiped it by mistake. It's what you do. If you actually look at the passes on your phone, they don't differentiate whose they are. They only puts on the first name person. So that's the issue, that you're about getting the right one. Now, if somebody makes a mistake, then what happens? Do we then get the rudeness of the steward? It's hardly a lovely experience, is it? Or a good experience coming to the club, really. And it just confronts even more. It's yet another negative thing to put people off.
Yeah, it's all about customer service at the end of the day. And I think it's very easy to say fans are customers, but at the end of the day, that's exactly what they are. They pay money, they go to watch a product, they go home again. But what you want, and I know the club want to enhance the relationship between stewards and fans, and I know that's something they want to do, but it all goes down to the training of the stewards as well, doesn't it? I mean, you know, a lot of these stewards just come to the game, they get paid, they go home again, don't they? They're not like, you know, regulars. The people that are regular stewards are excellent, and all the ones that you come to know over the years, you never have a problem with them. So maybe there's a bit of a communication problem here between those who run the stewards and the football club. They need to get together and talk about it. It's that simple, really, isn't it? Right, here we go. Andrew, I was going to say one signing so far. Of course, Williams Kakolo signed to the end of the season. Dawson Devoy, a 22-year-old midfielder, 58 appearances for MK Dons, 14 this season. What do we know about him? I'm assuming he wasn't signed in time to play Saturday.
Apparently that is the case. Yes. As much as we can gather, I think he's quite meant to be a kind of more attack-minded, creative midfielder. He's clearly not got the goal-scoring record in English football that Dan Kemp has. Nowhere near close. But I guess the idea is he will be a sort of a kind of attack-minded, forward-thinking player who did well in Ireland. MK Dons brought him over. He played a reasonable number of games in their season last season, though they went down, obviously. So take that as a mixed blessing or not, really. So yeah, and there was a sort of spell earlier in the season when they had Graham Alexander in charge, when he'd sort of got into the team for a few games, and sort of dropped out. It's been mostly on the bench since. That's the potted biography, I think.
Yeah. What are we expecting from him, do you think? Is he going to... I mean, the point is, I saw people criticise him before he's actually played a game for the town, which seems a bit counterproductive to me. I mean, come on, give the boy a chance. If it's that simple. So what are we expecting, do you think, from him?
Well, like I said, I think the idea will be for him to try and sort of get in there and pull some strings in midfield, and get some assists, and maybe perhaps find a way to chip in with goals that he did score in the Irish League, but he hasn't really scored in English football. I think that's the kind of the purpose of him. He's he replaces Dan Kemp in the squad without having exactly the same qualities, I suspect.
Sure. Well, few have those qualities. To be honest.
Exactly.
Yes. I think we saw in his latter time at the club just how important Dan Kemp is and what a player he is. I think it's fair to say. Dale says, where did it all go wrong? We started the season 9 unbeaten, scoring goals for fun. We were at one point the highest goals and assists across Europe. What happened? Well, our leading goal scorer at the moment is Charlie Austin with 8 goals and 5 assists. Then Hepburn Murphy, 4 goals, 1 assist. Fraser Blake Tracy, 2 goals, 4 assists. Tyree Shea, 2 goals, 2 assists. And Jake Kane, 2 goals, 1 assist. Now, we've lost 32 goals, Anna. It's not rocket science, is it? That's a big hole to fill.
I mean, it's interesting, isn't it? Because you pull 32 goals out of the squad, but even with those players in the squad, we're where we are, right?
Yeah,
so something was clearly wrong before that. And yeah, looking back to those kind of those heady days of that unbeaten run, it was always a little bit of a false position because we knew the squad depth was going to be a problem, but we didn't expect it to go so catastrophically wrong. I think we're to my mind we're inexplicably poor with Young and Kemp in the frame. We shouldn't have been where we are with those players in there. Now with them gone, you're definitely looking over your shoulder thinking, where are our goals coming from? But the goals scored is arguably less of the problem than actually defending and trying to keep a clean sheet. I had this thought in the back of my mind on Saturday when we were 2-0 up. Oh, clean sheet. And then,
I think you were the only one in the ground who did, to be honest.
it was like a little memory that I was trying to dig out from somewhere, So we know that we're not keeping a clean sheet. It just feels like that. It feels like somehow, anyhow, at the end of the game, even if we're 4-0 up as we were at Accrington, something is going to go wrong. So there's a lot of problems on the pitch and off the pitch, as we've been saying. But this January transfer window is critical, not just for this season, but for next.
Sure. So, 4 goals up in the 90th minute, 4-3 after 97 minutes at Accrington.
And a clearance off the line, don't forget.
Yes. Those of us who were there will never forget it. All the 2 free cups of hot chocolate, which actually, when you talk about customer service, do you know what? It's a little thing.
It's a little thing to make all the difference.
But, you come away from Accrington saying, do you know what? That was really decent of them. They needn't have done that. So thank you very much. Sorry, Anna.
Get customer service, do they? Really?
Well, it's just a small little token, isn't it? And when you travel all the way up to Accrington on a freezing cold Tuesday night, to get that, I thought was pretty good. Hello, John. I don't expect to know all the club's business, but when you see fans fighting each other in the stands, surely the club owners need to let us know what direction we're going in. They must be seeing it too. Just give us a statement of intent, as has been already mentioned on this tonight. I listened to it as well at the time. This is the Anthony Hall interview. He mentioned freeloaders and encompassed the season ticket holders 9 free games, which he considered too many. My view's always been you get a slightly reduced fee for each game because you shove your money up front. That's always been the way I look at it. You pay less per game. None of them are free. And
then you just free loan for 14 months, Vic.
Well, precisely. Kevin says, if we did go down to National League at some point, then don't think it would be easy. It's a tough league. It certainly is. Just look at some clubs who've gone down and struggled for a season or two. And there are many of them. York City, Yeovil, Torquay United. The list goes on, doesn't it? Halifax have been down there for goodness knows how long. What makes Clem give a 3-year contract extension to anyone who's only managed town about a month? Did some other club make an offer to Flynn? And Clem thought he would extend contract to protect his assets, so to speak, from Neil. And can I thank and say well done to Andrew for asking 1 or 2 probing questions on Saturday. I understand you have to tread carefully when questioning the manager, but I would like to see you probe a little further. But I think many people, I know you've spoken to people, James, who've said well done to Andrew for what he did ask on Saturday. So you could take your hat off and tip your hat to yourself if you want to.
Well, I will. I appreciate the nice words. I'm tipping my hat for them.
Marvelous.
We'll keep trying without sort of trying to grandstand too much.
Yes, that's the right way and the right approach. James, ground redevelopment, where are we at with that?
Yeah, so we paid an agency, a redevelopment company, to do some analysis work for us as a joint venture. in terms of coming up with ideas, best approaches, where the priorities should be in order to redevelop the county ground. It's fair to say that that company didn't do a very good job. We'd gone back 3 or 4 times to them with feedback on the fact that we didn't feel like they'd covered off this, that, X, Y, Z, etc. And I think after the 4th or 5th version that they'd sent us, still not being a great deal better, we've kind of gone to we've taken the approach now of saying, okay, well, we're obviously not going to get what we need from you, or what our expectation is. So we've gone to another organisation now who actually are more proactive, or more rapid, and actually are already showing quite a lot of great ideas that the other agency didn't have. And ultimately, what we want to try and do is we want to have something that we can look at and say, with hard facts and data that they've pulled from other clubs, maybe, that have done certain things, demographic information, all that kind of good stuff, so that we can try and make the right decisions on what the priorities should be in terms of the redevelopment. And that's the reason why it's gone very quiet. I've seen a lot of comments about, oh, it's not going to happen, and the whole fact that we know we've got to spend that money within that certain period of time, the 3-year period, the million pounds, otherwise, the council can buy the ground back, etc., etc. People don't. I can understand why people are worried, but they don't need to worry, because the 4 or 5 months that we've lost ultimately through working with this particular agency is the reason why everything has gone quiet, because we have behind the scenes been trying to get from them what we wanted in order that we could then make some decisions. That hasn't gone well, so we've gone to another provider who now are showing that actually, that they are doing a good job and actually coming up with the information that we wanted in order to help us make those decisions and actually prioritize where we should, where that money should go ultimately. So that's what's happening at the moment. The next stage will be a business plan, which they had a JV meeting, I think, last Friday, and that's kind of moving forward now. A lot of information's coming in, and we should be able to use that now to actually kind of go out to fans and say, look, this is what this third party's saying. Are people generally in agreement that these should be the priorities and where we should put the money? That said, there is money being spent on the county ground on a continual basis, because it's in such a state of disrepair and underinvested in for a number of years. So it's not that money's not being spent, but the big ticket items, like the roof over the Stratton Bank, or the executive boxes, or redevelopment of the town end, or whatever it might be, those are the things that are being picked up through this third party company and report that we will get. So that's why things have gone quiet. But I can certainly say that that it's not through the lack of trying from the JV to kind of move this forward. And Clem is, as are the trust and the EDs that are part of the joint venture, are all super. There's still massive enthusiasm there to get this stuff done. And we hope now, because there's new companies involved, that we should get some momentum and actually start being able to go out to fans and saying, these are the plans, and what do you think? So that's where we're at.
Okay, thanks for that. This is from Steve says, different colour on season ticket depending on criteria. Job done. Just takes a bit of thought. Seems a reasonable idea. Graham says, I travel from Bournemouth way home and away every week. Around 15,000 travelled each season. This year I just knew I didn't renew. I've been to the county ground just twice this season and a few ways to tick them off. Just Grimsby way left for me to tick off. I'll not be back until this lot are gone. There we are. Well, we're coming to the end of our time. Thank you very much. You got loads and loads of questions. One colour not being suggested for season tickets is yellow. Nobody would want that, would they? Nobody. The club is in a right mess, says Darren. Worse than the early 80s period. I'm looking forward to the fans forum. Hopefully there'll be no censorship. On questions, hopefully Morfuni will be bothered to turn up. His honeymoon period with the fans ended years ago. There will be no censorship. It's that simple. Right. I asked a question earlier on, so we'll end on this. Beckenbauer and Zagallo, both players and managers of World Cup winning teams. There's another one, a third one. Who knows the answer to that?
Didier Deschamps.
Oh, and you,
May
sir,
we?
are the
straight in
winner
there.
of today's prize. Brilliant. Yes, Didier Deschamps with France, of course. So well done, Liam. You would get the virtual prize. I'll just hold it up there. It's a virtual one. You're not having it. It's a pencil case that my grandson gave me, but it's virtually yours. Is that right?
I thought you might give me a hole punch or a stapler, but thank you. Yes.
There would be the old joke. First prize is 1 season. No, second prize is 1 season ticket. First prize is 2 season tickets. Is that old joke? If you know. Anyway, Mr. Cousins, there we are. A lively and interesting hour with plenty of views offered. And turn your mute off, and we'll be able to hear you.
Better unmute. Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah. Thank you very much, all of you, for coming on tonight, and we will all look forward to seeing you up at sunny Gresty Road next Saturday. Chris will be back next week. We're not quite sure what we've got. We're hoping to have a former player or
well, we've certainly got some members of the academy on, because, of course, on Tuesday that week, Manchester United are the visitors to the county ground. So looking forward to that, and hopefully there'll be a big crowd for that on the 16th at 7 o'clock.
Lovely job. Okay, thank you very much, and we'll see you very shortly. All the best.
Cheers.